Hello, my beautiful empresses. Welcome back to Embody Your Empress. My name is Sarah King, the host of the podcast and the founder of Empress Nation. This is the place you want to be for expanding your perspectives, opening up to new horizons, and pushing yourself to expand in the most gentlest, softest, safest way that you can. Today, we have a beautiful guest who is a somatic and mindful coach, the co-founder of the Healing Arts Center in Virginia Beach, California. Coming from a very diverse background, working with people who really, truly need it. And let's hear more out of her own words. Victoria Duarte, welcome to Embody Your Empress.
Thank you so much for having me. So, the business was actually inspired by my business partner, Mark, who is a retired Navy SEAL. And it's the different healing modalities that supported him and his family during his military retirement. And so, we just really wanted to bring together people who were compassionate and caring and really understood that when people are in pain, it's really hard to reach out. It's really hard to make that call and ask for help. The vulnerability of asking for help, the asking for help and knowing that the person on the other side really wants to help them and not see them as a dollar sign. I think, when we're in pain, it's so easy for us to be convinced that anything, if we do this, that it will help us and heal us. And then when it doesn't, we feel like we failed or we're broken. There's something wrong with us. And so we really just wanted to bring together a group of experts who understood what it's like to ask for help, that they were compassionate and caring, they were experts in their field, and that anyone walking through that door, that they were willing to look at them and go, I can help you, or they were willing to say, actually, this isn't a good fit, but let me help you find the right person. And that's the type of people that we work with. It's not only are we experts in our field, but we're also willing to say, I care so much about you that I want you to have the best help. Here are the best resources for you. And I know it as a practitioner, that can be difficult to look at someone and go, yeah, this isn't a good fit. But it is so needed when you look at another human being and you genuinely want them to get the help that they need and they deserve. And so we brought everyone together that we just loved and we're very blessed.
Oh my gosh, I can hear the passion and heart in your voice. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's touch on that. What you just said there about bringing together a group of experts and it not always being a good fit. And I think that's really
Mhm.
important to acknowledge because our society is sort of steamrolling this wellness train. It's very trendy and for the best reasons, right? It's very trendy, very front of mind. It's very on topic. And yet we as the collective seem to have forgotten that sometimes the person we first reach out to is not going to be always the person for our in-depth journey or our longest journey. And so I know some people can take that as a little bit of a rejection that I've reached out to these people and that in their professional manner, they have to be
Mhm.
authentic and honest and say, look, I'm here with you, but I'm not the right person to be supporting you. How how do people take that? Do they see it as a symbol of kindness? Do they understand why, or do they fall into that rejection and sort of contract and sort of withdraw? Because it is a big step to be vulnerable and say, "Hey, I need some help."
So one of the things that we do it very gently, and I think that's extremely important. I'll use an example. We had a gentleman who came in. He's a veteran. He's been a veteran for over 20 years. He served during the Vietnam, and he had never seen a professional. He'd never seen any mental health therapist. He had never seen anyone. It was the first time he was sitting in my office. And as much as I work with veterans, he was showing signs that he needed additional support. So I never looked at him and said, hey, you and I are just a terrible fit. What I said to him was, can we find you additional support so that I can help you along with someone else that I feel might be a better suited person for you? And because I was willing to extend, like, this isn't a closed appointment. Like, this is going to be the end of our journey. You are not the right person. You're not the right fit. Whatever it was. Like, I never personally made him feel like I was calling it out. Like, this is what you need. There's no way that I can provide everything that you need. It was very much a gentle, loving support of, you need more help, and how can I best help you find that?
Mhm.
And for every single person that walks into our office, that's the conversation that we have with them so that they don't feel like it's them. It's looking at the full perspective of, what do you need? And financially, we understand that getting help is also a financial investment. So it's also looking at it from the angle of, how much are you investing in us versus if you could be investing in that and then come back to us, if that makes sense. So we look at every possibility of making sure that the other person knows that we genuinely really care about you. So this isn't that we don't want to be part of this experience. And it hurts us in that way of, like, we meet them and we love them and we want to continue working with them. But it's also that part of going, how can we best see? How can we best make sure that you're getting the best care?
Mm. It sounds like it's very authentic, the way that you are seeing each an individual for that person that they are, rather than just a streamlined process of pulling people through, like the authenticity of everyone is an individual and we are going to see you for that. And it is the true holistic approach.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, because wellness is such a popular thing right now, but a lot of people are marketing it from this one formula idea. And we have people who walk through our doors with complex trauma, and there's no one solution that's going to help them. And if we look at the care that the military receive, especially the special operators, I am one of the many different practitioners that they see. I'll have a special operator in my office, and they've had 3 other appointments that week or sometimes that day. And, they're doing equine therapy, they're doing art therapy, they're doing cognitive behavioral therapy, they're doing Reiki, they're doing somatic, and so they're doing yoga. It's not this one formula answer. And not everyone has those resources. That's why, our practitioners that we have in house, they're all well educated, and they offer an array of different therapies and different techniques. But we also recognize that there's no way that one person who walks in our door is going to fit this one type of therapy. That's just not how life works. I myself had someone who made me believe that there was this one solution to all my problems. And if I followed this one technique, then I would be cured. And it was, when I look back on that time frame, I'm like, the technique did more harm than good. And she took no accountability. It was always like, I failed because I wasn't doing it well enough, or I wasn't trying hard enough. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. And so in our office, uh, we have well-seasoned practitioners who have also seen the other side of the harm. And I think that for us is one thing that we keep in the back of our mind of going, yeah, no, there's no one size fits all.
Oh, absolutely. And there's nothing like turning that mirror back, going, it's all your fault, right? Red flag, red flags. Don't like, not every practitioner is tarred with the same brush. So that's beautiful. Beautiful. You mentioned before vulnerability, the word
Mhm.
vulnerability. Can can you expand on what vulnerability means to you and your practice?
Vulnerability to me is being able to open up to someone in a safe space. I think vulnerability, when we're vulnerable with someone, we also have to know that we are speaking to a person that is capable of hearing us, of listening to us, of being with us, of sitting with us without judgment, without criticism, without an agenda. They just want to be with us. And so for us, or especially for me and what I do, it is a gift to sit with people who are vulnerable, who are willing to open up and tell me things that I will often hear. I've never felt comfortable talking about this. I've never felt safe being open about this. I've always been afraid of what person will perceive of me. And being able to, it's an honor to sit with people and have them open up at the level that they are willing to open up. And again, it comes back to creating a safe environment so that they can get to that place. Um, for me, I understand that it takes time for someone to warm up. So that first session that we have, I'm not exploring deep conversation with them unless they're willing to, because I can understand that a lot of time, them just sitting in a space eye to eye, that's vulnerable. That is such a vulnerable place. Being able to cry with someone, that's vulnerable. And so I love it when someone can open up. I had a client just the other day. She hasn't cried in over 30 years. As there's a sad movie, she will turn it on. Her mother passed away, and everyone looked at her like she was the most curious human being on the planet because there were no tears that were shed. And she finally sat in my office and she cried. And the first few tears that came, she did everything to swallow them up. And then, through warmth and tenderness and compassion, she took the shame away from crying because she understood that no matter what emotion she would show me, my respect for her would always remain the same. And so it is quite an honor when someone is willing to be vulnerable and to allow that part of themselves to rise up.
Mm. Respect is it's an intriguing word, isn't it? I feel like many people, and probably just an assumption, but the people that you're working with in services would feel that as well. Like that, if I showed emotion, if I showed, especially tears, crying seems to be the big one, that people will lose respect for me. How can we overcome that generalization that crying is deemed in a negative term, or it's just a release of emotion?
It's one where by being compassionate with yourself, by learning to be compassionate and loving to yourself, I feel that when you are able to do that with yourself, then you're able to sit with someone and allow the tears to come. And instead of forcing this fear of, what is the other person going to think of me? What is the perception of me going to change? And so for me, no matter who's walking in the door for me, we are sitting and we are talking about compassion. And one of the first questions that I always ask a client is, how can you look at this through a compassionate lens? And so we start conversations always from that perspective of, how can you be with yourself in a more compassionate way? And so it never surprises me that when we have those types of conversations and we start warming this up and we start creating this new muscle in the body to go, okay, and that's in the office and that is homework that they get and that's a practice that they learn. And then they can sit in the space when they're with me, and it's even a question that they'll reflect on is, crying for me right now would be the compassionate thing, and turning it back onto themselves and understanding that, yes, there's fear that's been associated with crying. I think as young children, many of us were told, go to your room and cry. We've been told that people are uncomfortable with our crying. We start crying, and then everyone starts giving us tissue. Everyone starts telling us all the information and all the advice. And no one ever really allows the other person to go, just let it out.
Mm.
And so, men especially have been taught to stuff it down. Or, if you're crying, then we've got to find a solution of how to quickly fix this. And for me, I will sit here in silence. I have no problem. As much as I'm talking right now, I have no problem sitting in silence.
And it feels so good after big old ugly cry where the snot's running out of your nose and you've got that going. Feels so good afterwards. It's kind of like every life lesson that I've ever experienced. Like, it feels uncomfortable in the moment. It might look messy. It might feel a bit icky. And then afterwards, when you're clearing, when you're on the other side and you're like, wow, that's what I needed. That's what I had to do to create the space within my body again. My mind feels clearer. I feel like I've got the capacity again to move forward. So
It's a good
beautiful.
feeling.
It is a good feeling. It's a good feeling. When you were sharing before about the woman not crying at her mother's
Mhm.
funeral and the expectation of the guests at the funeral looking at her like she was an animal in a zoo, the expectation of grief to look a certain way.
Mhm.
I I draw a connection that people from the services,
Mhm.
that their partners would expect them to behave in a certain way as well, and that it may not always look like that. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, I think when we talk about grief, there's this assumption like everything else, there's a one way to do absolutely everything in life. I don't know who came up with this theory. I don't know who came up with this concept, but I'd love to sit with you and be like, what were you thinking? And when you don't do it right, the amount of pressure and the amount of looks that you get, and it's every individual is going to go through their own process of what that is, um, I had someone that I work with that decided that she wasn't comfortable with having a funeral. She didn't like the idea. She didn't like the concept. She never did. She never attended them. She felt very uncomfortable. And so she did it her way. And I remember her sitting with me, and there were moments when, because it was so different, she was looking for approval. And what I did was create space for her to feel safe in the decision that she was making. She absolutely doesn't need approval, but that's what we do. And we're following a different terrain, but it's learning how to be safe in our choices, to be safe in how we're doing this differently. And with our grief, it's learning how to be safe when you're doing it differently. I've had people grieving and they're coming in and they're doing artwork. They're doing artwork with Mark, or they're doing poetry with me. And they're like, well, I feel like, am I supposed to be sitting in my room and just crying and isolating myself because that's what all my family and friends do? And I'm like, no, we actually grieve in community. We just have to find safe places to do that. And so, it's once more, moving away from this, it needs to be done this way. It's looking at it from, what do you need? How can this best support you as an individual who's going through this experience? Not what your mother went through, not what your sister went through. And if we look at a lot of people, most of us are walking around numbing ourselves and finding different ways of dealing with things through the lens of numbing versus the lens of, how is this compassionate and loving and caring to me?
Mhm. Yes, yes. And we all go through those bouts of numbing when things feel uncomfortable. And being a safe space for someone to come to and be like, I'm actually ready to process this is a beautiful gift to have. I I feel like we don't always realize we're in the numbing phase. Like, even picking up our phone and checking social media for hours on end, getting lost in the doom scroll is a form of numbing. And yet some numbing seems more accepted than others. And some are done so openly and some are done behind
Mhm.
closed doors. And having a conversation where you can go, we can find a safe space to feel our feelings and process them is really beautiful, rather than you have to hide and you have to do it in the darkness and you have to do the shadows, or in a way that's socially acceptable that we sort of bypass and we pretend we don't really notice. Very important. How can you tell us more about the artistic somatic side of healing? Like, healing for a lot of people can see as like the therapy journey, the talking journey. Can you share more about the more holistic side?
So Mark is my business partner. He's the artist. So if you have a session with him, you're more likely to be doing some type of artwork. And that's his passion and that's what he loves to do. And for him, it's doing it through mindfulness and self-reflection and asking a lot of questions. And, you know, what happens for a lot of people is sitting i- and just talking can put you on the spot, can make you feel like, you know, it can feel like a lot of pressure for a lot of people. And so being able to move and ask questions and going really deep and not being forced to look at someone eye to eye when you have trauma and being able to work through the process in a different way, it can just open up and help you to see things differently. And so that could be an emotional process, that could be like a strategy process that he might do, but it's very much for him asking deep questions without it feeling like you're in the hot seat. You're feeling like you've got to have a solution. You've got to have an answer to this. And, a lot of times a lot of people go, you'll ask them a deep question. And sometimes the first thing that comes out of someone's mouth is, I don't know, because no one's ever asked them that question. And so they default to like the vulnerability. That not default to that vulnerability, but they feel very vulnerable and they feel very exposed and they feel very much like, they feel very raw and naked having a deep conversation with someone. And when you do it through artwork, because there's something else that it's involving the imaginations, opening up the creativity that's helping you to focus, it can just feel easier, more flow and more fluid to have these deeper conversations. And so he does it through art. I do it through dance movement and writing. And so a lot of times for me, it's connecting a client who is very disconnected from their body. And so the question of how you feel is usually answered with, mumble because they don't know how they feel. You know, if they knew how they felt, they wouldn't be sitting in my office doing somatic work because they're so disconnected. And so, they are learning how to back into their body and feeling safe and feeling comfortable so that when they're feeling these deep emotions surfacing in their body, they're not pushing it away. They're not ashamed of it. They're not afraid of it. They're learning how to move with it and be with it because we can't hide from these big emotions as much as we think that we are doing a good job hiding from them. No, we are lashing out. We are being short. We're being paranoid. We're overthinking. We're overanalyzing. Our emotion is behaving on our behalf. And instead of that, when we learn how to tune in and be safe and comfortable in how we feel, then we can lower the distress signals and just be with them. And they just are, as opposed to this big magnitude of volcano of feelings and then feeling very confused by them.
Absolutely. And you're just describing like so many people walking around out there. Like trauma is not just reserved for elite situations. It's
Yes.
little traumas, big traumas, it's traumas from all
Yeah.
around. And just the disconnection from the body, like when you said that, I'm like, that's a massive thing in our society at the moment, being disconnected from our body. What going to say, and a lot of people are not aware of this. Like you said, you ask them a question, their just default is, I don't know. And no one, well, sometimes there's no further investigation into it. So if someone's disconnected from their body and they're listening to this and they're like, oh, hang on a minute, Victoria's saying rings a bell, it resonates with me, it lands in my heart.
Well,
What is the starting place for them to feel into that, to start the reconnection process?
so one of the things that I will do is we will trace the vagus nerve. So we will start at the cranial nerves. We'll go down our jawline. We'll go down the neck. We'll go to the heart. We'll go all the way to the stomach. And so we're just doing light touch. And at each point, what we're doing is we're adding breath work. We're going to add something compassionate, like it's okay for you to feel this way. It's okay for you to feel this way. And you might not even be saying, I feel sad or I feel angry. It's just the acknowledgement of however you feel, it's okay to feel this way. And then when we have done that process of just gentle, kind, loving touch, and we are stimulating the vagus nerve, we're moving from the reptilian brain. We're we're really just connecting to ourselves in a gentle, loving way. Then we can go, maybe we'll add movement, we'll add a little light swaying. Well, I always ask, whatever's most comfortable to the client, what do they need? So that they can stay present. So some people like swaying, some people it makes them dizzy. So it just depends on that individual. And then we will go to, is it okay for us to get in touch with that feeling, and what does that look like for you? And they might say it looks like sharp teeth. It might look like, an uprooted tree. It might look like a volcano with a lava spurting all over the place. And so we will use a visual to describe what's going on. And then we keep going and we keep exploring, and then when it becomes uncomfortable, we go back to the somatic work. We'll go back to eye movement. We'll go back to some type of movement. We'll go back to light touch. We'll do something to kind of get back into that state of, okay, so I see that you're triggered by what we just did. Let's bring it back to you feeling comfortable again in your body, right? So not allowing this continued pattern of disconnecting. It's okay. So I'm hearing and I'm seeing that you feel threatened right now. How can we create safety so that you can address this and come back to it? So there's very much a very in tuned way of being with the body, and also the practitioner being so attuned to when disconnection is starting to occur and then bringing it gently back. It's just like a gentle, compassionate way.
Oh, I love that. And that is the beauty of working with someone who is right there with you, holding that space, keeping you safe. Like when you know that someone is there with you and you can just be like, that person's got my best interests at heart. They're going to keep me safe. It allows you to go closer to the edges, to really feel into it, to allow that healing to happen in those spaces. And what you do is so amazing and so needed. Beautiful,
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Lovely, Victoria. I have three Empress questions for you today. I'm excited to hear your answers. They're a little bit fun and also they tell me a little bit about you. And I love hearing all the different answers because we are all unique individuals and how we play and move and experience life shows that. So how do you embody your Empress?
That's a great question. I think for me, I used to be extremely shy and quiet, and being out of my comfort zone, just even being accepting of being on a podcast was one of those that I could easily make every excuse known to man to be like, that doesn't fit the box that I'm trying to be in. Right. And, for me, it's been like, you know, am I shy? Or is this something I taught myself so that I could be safe? And so for me, for bodying, it's challenging myself to do things because I know authentically and organically that is who I am. It's just I convinced myself all these different narratives. So my 2025 year has been about me going, "Hmm, that's a great narrative that I told myself way back when to keep myself safe and comfortable." But 2025 has all been about like, what would be fun and exciting and joyful and bring me excitement? And knowing that I can just explore all these different things. And the safe idea is just me trying to be small and timid and afraid and screw that. I am how old I am, and I've had a lot of great life experiences that have told me, there's nothing really to be afraid of, and that my ego will tell me a million different things. But as long as I am authentically doing what's absolutely bringing me joy, then I'm already on the right path, and the divine will protect me every single step of the way.
Oh my gosh, that resonates so much. 2025 was my year of F the comfort zone as well, because I was so good at playing it safe And I'm like, I don't like to be uncomfortable. I don't like to push myself doing things. And then I was just like, you know what, Sarah, if you're here to do bigger things than stay in your safety box. So yeah, totally land with that. Isn't it funny? It's funny. Common threads throughout the world, right? And I'm excited to see us taking these steps forward where it's going to evolve to. It's very exciting for everyone. Okay, our next question. What does your Empress energy feel like for you?
Hmm. It feels like I am this opening light. I think for so long, as I had shared previously, I like to have my light, shining only so much, only so wide. And, I would love to tell my clients, you should do a podcast and you should go do this and you should go do that. And then I would hear right behind that, like, and when are you going to take your own advice and go be you and go be like this bright, beautiful light? And I do have to say that because I have the most wonderful support behind me, I get to be this bright light and know that, I can make a little, mistake along the way and be told like, oh, well, it's okay. We learn and we grow, and there's no criticism. So it's this wonderful blessing to be able to shine and be surrounded by people who make me feel like this work that I'm doing matters. So I know that this work matters, but having people around me and surround me that go, this work matters. How can we make you the best, brightest star that you can be? And it's not just me alone in my own little island going, I think I make a difference. I know I make a difference. I see it every day. But it's also having people behind you because you can sit in a room full of people that either support you or you can sit in a room full of people that put you in a cage and be like, are you really that special? Are you really that important? And I've been in both environments and I can say, I really like this one. But I really like the fact that I'm around people who just make me able to shine really bright. And yeah, it feels good.
And yes. And for anyone listening, if you are not around the people encouraging you to shine bright, if you're around the people that want you in that cage, you can choose other people in your lives. You can go out. There are
Mhm.
so many supportive people that are just like you. You're doing it. You're doing something great. You are changing lives. Find those people because those people they love the bright. They love the shiny. And I always
It's
call them my cheerleaders. You need your cheerleaders with you and you be their cheerleaders. And then it's a beautiful circle of the sisterhood or the collective coming together. But be around those people, choose those people in your lives. All right.
so important.
It's so important. And sometimes I forget it's a choice we can make. We make those choices. Yeah. What are your parting words of wisdom for inspiring your nation?
But be compassionate with yourself. You know, it's not a ritual, it's not this long process. It's learning how to be compassionate with yourself moment to moment so that when you feel stressed, when you feel overwhelmed, when your ego wants to tell you everything that you're doing wrong, how you're a horrible parent, how you shouldn't be doing this, how you shouldn't be doing that, and it just goes on and on and on and on. You learn to quieten that voice with compassion and with love. Because if we don't, we are rushing through our world in this urgent way, and we are causing more harm to ourselves than good. And so self compassion is not this soft place where it's all soft and gushy. It's this place where you are being honest with yourself, where you can look at yourself and go, I need rest. I need rest. And if compassion tells me that I need rest, do I need to do the 10 things on my list? No. But it could also be you looking at yourself and being compassionate and going, okay, so am I avoiding something? Because that's going to cause you more pain. And so it's really by having honest conversation with yourself so that you can be the best human being that you can be. And I think we really do that through self compassion because there's a lot of things that we should ourselves for. And that just causes more pain.
Yes, absolutely. think compassion is going to be my word of the new year. Compassion. I'm a single mom, so it's very easy for me to formate myself from a place of judgment when everything is not perfect. And I wouldn't even judge myself as a perfectionist. Um, However, compassion changes everything, absolutely everything, including the state of my vibration, my frequency, how I interact with my children, with the people around me, and myself, first and foremost. And compassion has been one of the things, Victoria, that this year, maybe in the if the comfort zone motto, that I've had to be like, it's okay to be scared and it's okay to feel your way through things and not know everything and not always have the answers. So I think compassion has been like slowly coming through thread by thread for me. And it's sort of now that you're saying it, I'm like, this is the shining light for me. So thank you for highlighting that wisdom for me. I feel like that was my own personal channeling there. Thank you. I love it. I'm just good. It's for everyone. Everyone take it, but also it's for me. Oh my goodness, Victoria. You do amazing, amazing work with the Healing Arts Center. Do you guys do anything online or is it just in person?
We do online and in person. So you can definitely check us out. If anyone is curious about us, it's healingartsbb.com. And most of our practitioners are available in person and online. We really do want our best to be able to be a resource to the community here in the US, but around the world, because, we think learning how to be compassionate with yourself. I know I grew up in a household where it was very much of do unto others, do unto others, do unto others. When your cup is empty, then you know you've done God's good work. And that's wonderful. That is wonderful. And I still believe in doing unto others. But what about doing unto yourself and allowing your cup to be full? Because the more capacity you have, the more that you're willing to do, the more you're willing to get out of your comfort zone, the more you're actually willing to listen and honor your intuition and do things that are completely out of your comfort zone, but could help so many.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. Fantastic. So go check it out on the website. We'll pop all the links in the show description as well. And thank you so much for being here on Embody Your Empress today. I love the difference in the world you're making. I love that I can hear it in your voice. I can see it on your face and the ripple effect that your passion has for healing, for helping, for bringing it back to self is just so beautiful, Victoria. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you so much.